Former US President Joe Biden has revealed he has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. For more, Sunrise Foreign Editor Dr. Keith Suter joins us live in the studio. Good morning. This is going to spark global reaction, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think there'll be a lot of sympathy for Joe Biden, but also a huge sigh of relief that he's not in the White House. Given the fragile nature of international politics at the moment, you need to have an American president who's fully on the job and not having to pay attention to his own health.
Yeah, obviously not good for him and his family. They say it has spread to his bones, but they're working on treatment, on management. But as far as his cognitive ability, that was the thing that was questioned seriously, and they couldn't get him out when he was in the White House.
And this is a real problem now because we've now got the release of the recordings of his being interviewed by the special investigator. And it's quite clear that the special investigator said, I can't proceed with this matter because I've got a kindly old gentleman who can't remember things. He was criticised at the time for saying that, but now the recordings are available, as they have been for the last 2 days. We can actually hear Joe Biden forgetting when he was vice president, forgetting the year in which his son died. He was actually in cognitive decline while he was still in the White House, and all of his aides and his wife were trying to protect him from that. And an important part of the American presidency is not only making decisions, but it's the performative part, being out there and giving the talks. And Biden was never allowed to go out doing too much campaigning because he was such a poor performer at the end.
It's interesting because the world could see that. You know, normal people thought there's something wrong here. And there was a story on the weekend, George Clooney meeting him at a function and the journalists were there. He didn't recognise George, and that's when George put the wheels in motion.
That's right. And there are a lot of other leaders who all had meetings with him and pretended he was fine. And they were lying to us.
Right. So the people that were surrounding him did a disservice to the Democrats and to the office.
And to the office. He should have quit much earlier, or at least, you know, decided not to run again, and then give more chance for the Democratic Party to come up with an appropriate candidate.
OK, let's talk our Prime Minister. He's obviously in Rome. He's gone to the Pope's inauguration. He's also met on the sidelines with EU President Ursula von der Leyen in Rome, discussing this trade deal, trying to mop up some of the slack from the tariffs, I guess, from the US. What is really going on here? How far can we get?
Well, Australia's been in negotiations in the past. Remember, the European Union, in its very early days, was designed to protect French agriculture. And the reason that our trade negotiations broke down 2 years ago was, again, over agriculture. So the current Prime Minister has made it quite clear that we're not going to do a deal at any price, even though because of Trump and tariffs, we are now looking more towards Europe. The Europeans are going to have to be much more conciliatory towards Australia in terms of our agriculture. The French and others have got some of the least efficient agriculture in Western Europe. Australian farmers are amongst the most efficient in the world.
So also the EU is saying we can't name our produce Prosecco or Parmesan or Feta. How far is that going to impact us?
Well, that's what's all going to be part of the negotiations.
OK.
Yeah.
What about Zelensky? Is our Prime Minister going to actually meet Vladimir?
That's right. And, of course, there's a huge amount of public sympathy in Australia for the Ukrainian cause. We are supplying military equipment, and there's talk about Australia being part of the coalition of the willing. I don't think we're going to be ever supplying troops if there are troops to go to Ukraine, but we will continue to supply good quality military equipment.
OK, Keith, thank you very much for that international update. Here's Sherbo.